Welcome back. This is the second in the series of two as we're building a title screen for video tutorials in After Effects. And try as I might, I try to keep these videos to 5 minutes, but the last one was 13, so I apologize. I'll try to keep this one as short as I can. It'll probably be 13 minutes too. So the last two things we have to do, if we jump over here and look at our title screen, we added the logo last time and we put in the type below it. We animated this, and now we're going to add this: tutorials, graphic design, web design, woodworking, and finally the website here. So let's hop back over to After Effects. On our type tool, let's click down here and we'll drag a box across. I'm going to center this, so I'm going to put it almost all the way across, and then it will center it for me. Now if I go in here and I start typing tutorials, and then I'll type a return. This is just like adding regular type. Graphic design, space, bullet, I forgot the R in graphic, and I have web design, space, option 8 for the bullet, and woodworking. Alright, so I'm going to select all of this and go under my character, and you see that I have this branded with my Roboto type that I like. We're going to keep it the light blue. I like that because it de-emphasizes it a little bit and makes my white logo pop out. I'm going to bump the type size up just a little bit. Notice when I do that, I think we'll go up to 80 here, that the bottom type disappears. I just have to open my text box to get that to appear. All of this I want to center, so I'll go under Paragraph and click on Center. And then I want just the word tutorials to be in bold. So I'll go back up to my character and I will select bold. That will make that a little bit heavier. So now if I want to, if you look down here, this has added it to the timeline, and I'm going to drop it down to the bottom just so it's in sequence of how it appears on here. That's strictly for my own purposes, organizing what it looks like. And on here, I kind of like it where it is. If I want to, I'm using my arrow keys, scoot it up just a little bit, but I want a little bit of space between these two. Okay, so I have tutorials, graphic design, web design, and woodworking in here. Now what I want to do is, on my timeline, I want to animate that. So if I click on here, you see that this is showing up for the entire duration of my 3 minutes. So I'm going to scrub back here in the timeline to 1 minute, and this is where my logo, if you remembered in the previous tutorial, comes into full opacity and full size. And you can see how, as I scrub through, it starts real small and comes in, and then it reaches full opacity right here. So if I just click on this red bar in the timeline and I go over to the very beginning, I am going to pull this over to here. So now you'll see that before this point, since I've moved this over, that type does not show up in the video because I've moved it over to start here in the timeline. So now the logo will build first, and I like to, from a design standpoint and basically a communication standpoint, deliver your graphics in small chunks. I call this chunking. So they'll get the logo first, and they'll read the logo, and then educator, author, or artist and author. And then when they get to here, we'll have this start to ease in. So now that we're on this timeline, and I might even give it, I'm going to move it over just a little bit. I'm going to give it just a little bit of time for them to read the logo once it's at full opacity. And then I'm going to pull this over just a little bit more. So we'll have it start here. So if I go to my type, same thing happens here. I have transform. And on this layer, we'll do the same steps that we did in the previous tutorial to bring this in. We won't change the size of it. I'm concerned that might be too much interaction with video and interaction with large and small, maybe too much just for the viewer to take in. So we'll just have this gently increase in its opacity and kind of fade into it. So I'll click on opacity. Again, I have my scrubber bar here in the timeline right where I want this to start to come in. So I'll click on opacity. That adds a little keyframe here. I will drop the opacity to 0. Then I'll move this over about the same distance as the distance that I left for the 1 second that I left for this to fade in. And over here with my scrubber bar on the timeline here, I'll click in opacity and add a keyframe. So in this keyframe, I want it to go to 100%. So now let's just scrub through and see what happens. We start here. In the first second, this comes up and comes to full strength right here. Now it waits just a little bit, and then the second one starts to fade in for about the next second. So let's play that in real time. Just type our space bar. That's how it looks. Very good. Okay, so now let's close this up, and we're going to add the last line of type, which is my website. So I'm still on the type tool, and since I'm going to center this, I'm going to drag this across the bottom here, and I'm going to type in Koons.com. I want this to be regular weight because I don't want it to dominate that, and I want it to be a little bit smaller too. We'll go about 50 pixels here. So this sits at the bottom. I am not going to put a hyperlink on here. YouTube doesn't allow them, and they don't want you leaving the YouTube website or the page, so it doesn't matter. I won't put it on here at all. What most people will do is they'll put a little short video at the end and say, please subscribe, or also check out my website at Koons.com. That's how YouTube prefers we handle that, so that's what we will do. Okay, so I have this. Notice this gives it its own, this Koons.com. It shows up on the top. For organizational purposes, I'm going to pull it down to the bottom. I'm going to close this up just to keep this open, or to keep this clean, and then I'll open this. And so now I'm on Koons.com. I want that to ease in as well, fade in, so we'll do the same steps. Put our, first of all, we'll take this, and we don't want it to show up until after, oops, I want to open this up so I can see where I put that opening and closing. So I don't want the Koons to show up at all until just a little bit after the tutorials. This chunk of type fades in. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of space again. I'm going to pull my scrubber bar back here, and right here is where I'm going to start. I'm going to scroll up again, and on opacity, we're going to put this. Click here to put a key for, I'm sorry, clicking on there puts a keyframe in. I'm going to set this at 0. Scrub over here, and we won't go the full minute here. We'll go just about halfway or a little bit past halfway. We want to give a little bit of time at the end for them to see everything on the screen. So we'll have this last website fade in just a little bit faster. So here I'm going to click on the opacity to add a keyframe and put my opacity up to 100. Again, we're not going to do anything with the scale. I think that might be too much happening on the screen, so we'll just ease this in. So if we scrub back here, you'll see that that phases in and fades in and fades out. So let's go all the way back to the front. We'll type our space bar. I better hit save here first. Hit our space bar and see what it looks like. That fades in, that fades in, that fades in, and it all stays. That fades in, oops, sorry, let's fade in, fade in, fade in, and it all stays. So that is basically how I built and animated my title page for the tutorials that I put on Google. It's pretty fast, pretty intuitive. You just kind of open up After Effects and start digging around in here, and I was surprised how user-friendly it was when I first started working in After Effects. So that's how I made the tutorial. Thank you very much. Sorry, that's how I made, not the tutorial, but that's how I made the title screen. I also wanted to point out too that once I make this now, I will just save this as a separate project. And when I make a video, a tutorial video, I will make a brand new project, and I will be able to take this title screen and bring it into the separate the project on a separate layer, and then I'll have my videos on another layer, And I can put this at the end as well. So this becomes really, this little video project here becomes like, or the title screen project becomes a support file that now I can use over and over again at the beginning of all my videos and at the end of all my videos, and I only have to make it once. And then the cool thing is if I would ever come back and say I didn't want to do web design anymore, or I wanted to change woodworking to hand tools or something, I could change it here, and then going forward, it would change in all of the videos that I uploaded by itself because it is that support file. All right, thank you. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. And if you'd like to see more tutorials here, I also have a lot of tutorials over on craigkoons.com. So go there and check out tutorials on graphic design, woodworking, and web design. Thank you.